Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today I just wanted to give my thoughts on kind of the state of 8th edition, particularly in the competitive scene, like the meta at the moment, and the place of Harlequins within that meta. Now, a lot of you guys already know I tend to play pure Harlequin, so I won't really be looking at the soup elements so much. I know that lists like Sean Naden's list, the LVO, and other Eldari lists that include a Harlequin component are doing really well, which is understandable. I mean, we do have some really good characters, we have some good bikes, but really I want to focus more on the state of pure Harlequins, why we're not a particularly high tier army right now, and what we would need in order to be able to become one. Particularly, I'll be looking at a little bit of predictions, my predictions for Psychic Awakening, what I think will actually happen versus what I think needs to happen to make us a competitively viable army. So let's just first of all start with the state of the meta at the moment. So I went to a tournament recently. It was actually a nicely varied group of armies that were being played. Of course, there were a lot of Marines. I played some Marines, Ultramarines, which, as you guys might have seen in my Beer and Bat Reps video, is just a nightmare because you can't tag them. And the efficiency of the rerolls and all the rest of it just makes it it's incredible because they do so well over time. And I think that's one of the problems with Marines for other armies, is that you might be able to get a good first or second turn in, or you might not, but your variance is basically much larger. So in that game, for example, against the Ultramarines, I knew that if I did well in turn 2, I would win the game. I knew if I didn't do well in turn 2, I would lose the game. And that's the second option, is what happened. So that was kind of, it was fairly obvious for me from the start that if you start to whiff with a couple of your dice rolls with Harlequins in that kind of situation, then it's basically a case of you do well now or you're dead. And that's part and parcel of being a Glasshammer army, of course. But all Eldari armies are Glasshammer style armies, really, except for maybe mechanized craft worlds or Wraithguard based ones. But otherwise, we're meant to be a Glasshammer army. But the reason why they do well over us is a particular type of efficiency. So let's go over a couple of the points of the Harlequins book and why maybe we're not the most competitive army right now. First of all, we are an elite combat army. Now, what that means is we don't have a huge amount of troops. We're not like orcs or, Tyranid swarms, any of this kind of stuff. But we want to be in combat. We do have shooting capabilities, but as many of you all know, we don't actually have a single way of getting rerolls in a pure Harlequins list. So we can't reroll our hits in the shooting phase at all, which means that the effectiveness of our shooting is never going to be, high tier stuff. There's no point in a straight out firefight. We die, basically, is pretty much the only way of putting it. So what we do want is we want a certain amount of combat proficiency. Now, with orcs, it's easy. You put 90 boys, bunch of Gretchens, some fire support in there, and you wipe the floor with everything. And I have played around with the idea of getting as many players in as possible. I think one of the issues that we have is just that in one unit, you can't have that many troops. So I'm not saying that we should have 30 troops in a unit. And I think that would be too much because it wouldn't play to our fluff. But having an upper limit of 12 on our infantry who are meant to be in combat makes us very, very breakable. Now, obviously, there are ways of mitigating this with the Shadow Seer and, with some spells and auras and this sort of stuff. And that can really help us, and it does help us. But essentially, the biggest problem with us is that we are meant to be in combat, but we often don't survive enough to be in combat. The other scary thing is then that even when we've charged, then our opponent can interrupt. And the moment that, we get hit by anything back, we fold. So that 4-up invuln save is a blessing and a curse. It means that we're more expensive, we have smaller units, we are essentially a whole army of elite choices, but you know, it's a 50-50 chance as to whether or not we're just going to die. So I think survivability is one of our biggest problems, and is not something that necessarily needs to be mitigated. It just we need to have a little bit of a change in terms of the dynamic of how the army works. I do think that moving the troops up to a maximum of 18 per troop, because it should be in multiples of 6, would help us a lot. I think you'd see a lot more of those kind of, I don't want to say horde armies, but like armies built around a lot more infantry on the ground rather than just in the transports. Now, the problem at the moment with the Marine meta is that we do really badly against most Marine armies, specifically things like Imperial Fists. So Imperial Fists have both weight of fire and the bonus against vehicles, which means that weight of fire will kill our infantry and the bonus against vehicles will kill our transports. And we just don't have enough other options to be able to get our troops in. That's why I do hear some people talking a little bit more about Veiled Path these days, just to be able to try and deep strike a lot in. But then again, there is an answer to that in terms of more and more armies are getting this kind of larger bubble outside of deep strike. So if we're at 12 inches away, when we come into deep strike, we can't do anything other than hopefully roll a double 6. That is our only option. If we're within 9, we can do some things, which is where I think actually the points drop on the Neuro Disruptor was quite interesting. I think it has a potential to be an interesting point for deep strike mechanics, if you see what I mean. But this does bring me on to the other problem that we have, which is range. Our range is so short. And this might be too much as a prediction, but when we look at a lot of the custom traits in Psychic Awakening, there's always a trait that gives you extra range. Now, it'd be very interesting if we got an extra range bonus and what that would do to our army builds. If we got, let's say, add 3 inches to the range of all pistol weapons, now that starts making Neurodisruptors actually quite interesting. The fusion pistol is still only 9 inches, so you will never be able to shoot it from deep strike. Although, with your fusion boats, then you're getting even more range out of them, which is fantastic. But Neurodisruptors then en masse might actually be quite nice, nasty little Primaris killers from deep strike. So yeah, that would be one kind of loose prediction that I would have, is that maybe we might get a bonus in the Psychic Awakening for some of the range of our weapons, because the longest range that we have on any weapon is 24 inches, and let's be honest, guys, it's just not good enough right now. The reason why so many people take Craft Worlds in, or Drukhari in, is because of some ranged weaponry, and we don't have any. So we might have a decent threat range, but we do need some better ranged weaponry. That's kind of, I'd say that's a given. So yes, we're struggling with our survivability, our range, and just the efficiency of other armies right now in comparison to us in terms of things like rerolls. We don't get enough. So let's go on to what I think we would need in order to be able to counter this. Now, we have fantastic options in terms of avoiding Overwatch. However, we don't have any options in terms of holding something in combat. And I think we need a relic that can do that. We need something that can stop someone else from leaving combat. Right now, our only answer is to soup in witches. And the Harlequins do need something to be able to keep them safe in that zone that they feel most comfortable in. And, it would work fluff-wise as well, I think. So, even if it's just one relic, I don't know, it could be a Caress maybe, because we don't have a relic Caress, or it could be a relic Embrace, or, or give us another reason to use something else. I don't know, make it so if make a strat, for example, make the Neurodisruptor useful by making a strat and saying, like, if you've been targeted and, you lose someone through a Neurodisruptor, that the enemy unit can't move, maybe because they're trying to sort of, like, help this sort of screaming, agonized sort of comrade of theirs, like, from the floor. Don't know, something that stops someone from being able to leave combat is something that we absolutely need. What else do we need? I think we do need some additional range on some of our weaponry, as stated. It doesn't have to be pistols, just make it assault weapons, and then it's our Skyweavers and our Death Jesters, and, I mean, having 24 inches on a sniper rifle is abysmal, let's be honest about that. I think Death Jesters just need a slight boost in range, and they'd be great, they'd be a fantastic unit. What else could we need? Well, rerolls would be fantastic. Obviously, upgrading the Great Harlequin to Space Marine style rerolls would be fantastic. However, from what we've seen from every other Psychic Awakening book, even other Space Marine chapters are not getting that level of efficiency. So either Games Workshop realised, oh, that might be a bit much, or they've just gone, no, we like the Space Marine meta being the way it is. None of you get that, they get that. So, one way or the other. And the other thing that we do need is, I think we do need another unit. I know it's something that everyone would go on about, but we just don't have the variety. Where most armies will have different tools to be able to deal with things, our tools come from our weapons options. So what we either need is we need a new unit with a completely different role, something like mimes with multi-pistol shots, which would be my preference. Coming in from deep strike and hopefully the pistol, or multi-shot weapons, something that can clear hordes. Or we need a new weapon for our troops that can do something similar, something with a little bit more range that can do a lot more firepower. And I think in some ways we do need those reroll ones in the shooting phase. It's not that much to ask. Come on, Games Workshop, just do reroll ones for the 2CP on the Great Harlequin, we'll be happy. I think, if I'm honest, I think that would be a massive, massive bonus to us. It would mean that I would actually take fusion pistols, and it would mean that, a lot of our shooting capacity will not go into meta-breaking efficiency, but would actually give us a chance to do the damage that we need to do so that when someone shoots back, they're not unloading most of an army into us. So that's pretty much it. It's pretty much just been me rambling about, how Marines are broken, I guess. But no, it's not just that. It's to be fair, it has been throughout 8th edition. Things like Imperial Guard or, other armies seem to have a significant amount of efficiency when they deal with us. And it has only gotten worse through the Psychic Awakening books. So I'm hoping that we might, with a little boost to ourselves, or maybe just some extra unit options, we might be able to get up to a mid-tier army, and I would be happy with that. Even if we just got a little boost to push us up, just to essentially a bit more of a playable army. Because at the moment, the way in which it's looking, we don't have enough troops, we don't have enough variety, and we don't have enough range really to compete in this meta. That being said, I've got a list that I'm really looking forward to playing this weekend at a GT. It's going to be an 80-person GT up in London. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be massive fun, and I'll be doing my best repping Pure Harlequins. Not the only player, there's 2 of us. But I will be there representing Pure Harlequins, doing my best against whatever comes my way, and we will have a video up about the list that I'm taking very shortly. Thank you very much for listening. If you managed to get to the end, well done. And I've been Kit. Thank you very much for all of your support. It's been really fantastic. This has been Ghost of the Webway. I've been Kit, and goodbye, and see you next time.